Ooh, I heard that. Is that your belly?
Yeah, it wasn't a buffa though. It just rolled. If it had come out, I would have excused myself. It's just making music.
You know what the start of the next show is going to be now.
Oh no. You had that on?
It's still going. I gotta Stories with Vavo. Stories with Vavo. Listen to them all. We got some stories with Vavo. She was born in Rome, and her stories are the best. Vavo. And she'll never stop talking. Welcome back to Stories with Vavo. My name is Phil Pancho. I'm here with my lovely mother, Sophia Pancho. Episode 13. Can you believe it?
I hope it's a lucky and not unlucky number.
Well, we thank everybody who's been spending time with us. It's a lot of time now when you think about it.
Yes, it is.
And we hope you're enjoying the stories as we go. So we've had some kids now. I think one of the things that sticks out is that you guys moved around a lot. Like
Yes,
I thought we moved.
Early days.
I thought we moved a lot. Like after we got here. But it sounds like in those early days there was a lot of training. So it was Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
You did
And then,
Ohio.
Yeah, well, after Puerto Rico and before Ohio, and Kevin was just, he was about 4 months, when Dad had to go train. We were already in the house we built on Clay Estates. And Dad had a 3-month training session in New Jersey. And Dad being Dad, he wasn't going to go if he couldn't take his family with him. Mm-hmm. So we scrounged and we went with him to New Jersey. We arrived, it was Orange, New Jersey. And we arrived there on March 20th. And there wasn't a speck of snow anywhere. Of course, we had no experience whatsoever with snow, but we'd been telling Mark, when he gets to New Jersey, he's going to see snow. And of course, it was bare. And everybody couldn't believe it because New Jersey gets a lot of snow. And then when we landed and Mark's looking for snow, Grandpa says to him, well, Dad, I keep calling him Grandpa, we're so used to. But he said to him, well, tonight when you say your prayers, you just got to ask Jesus to send you snow, which he did fervently. The next day, they had the biggest snowstorm that New Jersey had recorded up to that time.
Wow.
Everybody was, traffic stopped, everything. Even the helicopters were having a hard time getting around. And anyway.
Is this one of those things where Dad all of a sudden knows everything, so he knew this was coming, so he told Mike to do it?
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think he knew. Nobody was talking about snow coming. But he did, when he went to work, he told everybody, my kid was, the day we arrived, and he went right away to check in. He said, my kid was really disappointed. There's no snow anywhere, so we're going to have him pray for snow tonight. And everybody was of the opinion, don't bother. And then the next day, when he finally got to work, the hill said, tell your kid to stop praying for snow. But that day, of course, we had never seen snow at that point. And we were looking, Mark and I were looking out the window. Danny occasionally, he was smaller and he wasn't that interested. But the two of us were pasted to the window watching the snow come down and pile up outside. Everything was covered. And we were just, amazed. And then, but I had to have the super of the building came to the apartment because right away I noticed our stove wasn't working, our oven wasn't working. and he came to fix the oven. So he walked. It was a young man, kind of sleazy to me, but anyway, sorry about that.
It was Jersey.
Yeah, he says, "What are you guys doing?" Because we were standing at the. Oh, we're just here looking at this wonderful sight, the snow. What? Are you nuts? He didn't think the sight of that snow was so beautiful. But then, of course, we had gone there ill prepared for the weather. We didn't know what to take, but some friends had loaned Mark a little winter coat. Well, you'd call it a spring coat, but it was heavier than what we'd need in Bermuda. No boots. He had a pair of rain boots, rubber rain boots. And I don't even remember about mitts. He must have had mitts because he couldn't play out there with, his hands would be too cold. But he loved the snow. And he was playing out there in the back of the apartment building. There was like a little playground for the children. And he played. And I was inside with Danny and Kevin watching him through the window. And finally, I had to go and get him to come in. He never would come in. And when he did come in and we took off those rain boots,
his feet
they
must
were
have been
full of snow.
Oh, no.
Because the snow was so deep, it had gone right into his boots. His feet were bright red. And he never complained. I can't imagine that they didn't hurt him.
Yeah.
But he didn't. He was so really excited about being in the snow. So anyway, in that apartment, we didn't have a washer or anything. We had to go to the laundry room. And part of the problem, we had no money. And when I'm saying no money, 25 cents for the washer was a big deal.
Oh, wow.
So I had the diapers from Kevin. Danny and Mark were out of diapers. But Kevin was, of course, a new, 4-month-old, and cloth diapers, of course. And every day I washed the diapers in the kitchen sink and wrung them out as much as I could. And they were hanging in the Venetian blinds, in the windows and doors, and wherever I had space, I hung them. And because the place was heated, they dried fine. And then once a week, I'd go and do our big wash. When Dad was home and stayed with the boys in the apartment, I go to the laundry room and do our big wash. But it was, like I said, partly it was the money. I didn't want to be paying 25 cents every day to do a load of diapers, but also because I didn't want to have to take 3 kids down to the laundry room. And of course, Mark was in kindergarten when we left Bermuda, and I was very concerned that he shouldn't miss anything. The teacher said, "Oh my goodness, it's no problem. He'll get a lot more benefit out of that travel than he would out of a few extra words he will learn in kindergarten." She said, "He loves to read his books. Just do that with him and it will be an experience for him." So Mark not only loved books, but he loved the cartoons. And one of his favorite things was Hercules. And he was watching the cartoons. Somebody loaned us a big pram. It was a relative of Mrs. Soares that I used to work with, who lived in New Jersey, and they loaned me this big pram, which was big enough for Kevin to sleep in at that age. And I left Kevin in the pram. Danny was just messing around, and Mark was watching Hercules. And I went out. I didn't realize the lock wasn't set. I didn't set it to not lock.
Yeah.
The door shut. And I went to the end of the hall just to drop off my garbage. There was a garbage chute at the end of the hall. When I came back and I go to grab the door, I can't open it. We don't have a telephone. We were going to be there for 3 months.
Yeah.
Who were we going to call? We didn't know
Yeah.
anybody there. So never thinking about emergencies ever. I mean, we were the type of, God takes care of us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus.
So
Yeah.
I'm at the door, Mark, and of course, as soon as you knock on the door, the whole hallway hears the
Yeah.
bang, bang, bang
Yeah.
on the door, and I can hear Hercules. And the
That's
song,
him?
no, it
Oh,
was,
just
he
the
was
TV.
singing
Oh, he
with
was singing,
it,
okay.
but the theme was on. I thought, oh no, I'm never going to get him to the door, and I knocked again. I'm in the middle of this trying to figure how I can get his attention when some man walked up the hallway looking really disgusted at me. And I said, oh, I can't get my child to open the door. And he says, well, phone him. I said, yeah. I wasn't going to say to him, I don't have a phone. How do I know what his intentions are? Scary looking guy in his long black coat and
Oh,
hat.
my.
All my imagination is running wild. So I say a little prayer to the Holy Spirit and try again. And for some reason, Mark came and opened the door, and I barreled in there. I learned my lesson. Never again go out without checking, or maybe not go and put garbage out. Wait till Grandpa got home.
For sure.
And yeah,
That's
so
scary.
that was scary.
Yeah.
And that place too was bare floors because we were only there 3 months. We weren't going to buy rugs or anything like that. They had bare minimum or bare essentials of furniture, like a couch and a couple of chairs. There was the TV, which drove me crazy at one point, but I'll come back to that. But the TV I would put on Jack LaLanne in the morning with exercises, because I needed to get my form back after having the baby. So I always did exercises. And I'm hopping around with Jack LaLanne and doing my exercises, happy as can be. Couple of days pass and I get the super comes and tells me there's a complaint downstairs that my kids are running around and making too much motion on the ceiling.
Oh, yes, the
because
kids.
there's no carpet. Well, at the time I was totally indignant. Because I didn't
kids are
even,
not running.
I don't let my kids run around with somebody. He must be talking about another apartment. No, she lives right below yours. I said, well, she's got rocks in her head. I was so indignant because I knew I didn't let my
Hey, you never
children
put it
run
together.
around. Not till the following day. When Jack LaLanne comes on and I start doing my hops. Oh no, it's me. I didn't know whether I should go and apologize. I said, oh, what the heck, she's miserable anyway. Let her leave her at
All
it.
she wants is for it to stop anyway.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, while we were in New Jersey, Dad took the kid. Well, first of all, we took a train ride to Bristol, Rhode Island on a weekend. My aunts lived in Bristol. So, this big exciting weekend, we took them, get into this train, and the hour we got on was right after Dad got through with work or school, and it was crowded. I mean, there was not a seat to be had. And we're going along. He's got the two boys by the hand. I've got Kevin in my arms. And we're looking for a seat. And all of a sudden he says, here's one. And there was a single seat there. I sat in it. I'm holding Kevin. And just before the train was going to take off, this man comes over And he says, what have you done with my hat? I said, hat? There was no hat. Well, I sat on an empty seat. And he says, well, it was there. And then he looked up on the luggage shelf above. Oh, you put it up there. I said, I didn't touch any hat. He says, it wasn't, I didn't see a hat. I didn't touch a hat. I said, just go on about your business. I'm sitting there. It was an empty seat. I was so mad I wanted to punch him out, accusing me of moving his hat. So in the meantime, Dad had kind of crouched on the side of us. The boys were standing beside him. The train ride wasn't too long. Anyway, when we got out of the train, I was still livid. And I'm saying to him, can you imagine that guy telling me I moved his hat? And he looks at me and says, yeah, well, you didn't, but I moved it.
And he lets you roast on it, too. Like
I never said a word. He knew what was going on, but he never said a word. He just let me take the blame. Oh, I was so angry. I wanted to kick his shins or something to hurt, but anyway, that was the exciting ride to my aunt's. It was nice to see my aunts. And then we had the other train ride from New Jersey was that Dad took Danny and Mark to the Bronx Zoo. So Bronx Zoo is really famous for being the greatest. And of course, I stayed home with Kevin. There was no point trying to work a baby through that. And then when they came home, he said, oh, Danny, tell Mommy what happened with the elephant. And Danny's little eyes just bugged out of his head. Big nose, and he's pointing to his hand to say, peanut, Daddy, peanut, big nose. It was the elephant coming to get the peanut out of his hand. But you really have to see.
Well, because he would have been like two, two, right?
Yeah, he was 2 in March, and that's when we got there. He was just shaking.
3.
He was 3,
yes,
yeah. But
wow.
that he was just, he would shake from head to toe, and for years afterwards, while he was still small, if you ever say, tell about the elephant, he'd go right away and point to his hand. Peanut.
Oh,
big nose. We should tell about Dan and the cow.
And the cow.
This was when he was younger yet, before Kevin was born. We were still on Harrington Hundreds, and our house bordered a farm, and they had some cows there. But it was a tiny little road, just enough for a car to get by. But at the fence, there was a little bit of soil and stuff. So then he was playing so peacefully with his little truck on the edge of the fence and making roads and all, making his little car go. And I came out to check on him. And when I went to check, it was just at the perfect time, because the cow had approached the fence and she hung her head right over his head where he was playing. He never noticed. And all of a sudden the cow went, moo. And he lifted. He didn't run or what. He just lifted in midair. He was so scared.
It's like the cartoon with the feet, the feet going before they hit the ground.
And he came running into the yard. Thank goodness I was there, because I don't know what he would have done. He grabbed me because he saw me there, but he was so scared. And then
that would be scary.
Yeah, with the thing moo over your head. So I've got him. I'm trying to calm him down. Finally, he's okay. And then later on in the day, Dad comes home. So I said, "Oh, Danny, you tell Daddy what happened with the cow." He says, "Shut up! Shut up!" He didn't want to hear about.
Oh my
He didn't
gosh.
want to tell about the cow. Well, we laughed, but the next time we were really friendly with our parish priest, and he dropped in for a visit. And I said, "Oh, ask him what happened with the cow." So he goes up, "Oh, Danny, I hear you had a story about the cow. What happened?" "Shut up! Shut up!" he says. I was secretly hoping he would do that, but I thought maybe with Father Sini he wouldn't. He always just called him Father Sini.
And this is Father Mancini.
Mancini. And oh, he didn't want to be reminded about that cow. Oh, jeez.
Oh, that's so cute. Oh, boy.
In that
There's a lot of stories about him at that age, though, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Like,
and he loved to imitate Elvis. He would take a little stick or anything that he could try and play like a guitar, and he'd be doing Elvis songs and hopping all over the place. Yeah, he was a finicky little eater, but he was full of energy.
so it's kind of crazy because we talked last time about you get back from Puerto Rico, you sell your house, move into Granny's, have Kevin. 2 weeks later, you're hosting Christmas
At the
at your.
no,
2 weeks later, you move
after.
into your new place, and then
Not
that Christmas,
we had
you had everybody at
had
your
everybody
house
there. Yeah,
with a newborn and
yeah,
2 toddlers, and then well, I guess Mark's past toddler at this point, but
yeah.
and then now, 5 months later, you're packing up and moving to New Jersey
New
for 3 months.
Jersey, yeah. It was a nomad kind of life when you think back on
Yeah,
it.
holy moly!
At the time, we just took it in our stride. I didn't think anything of it. I just,
Yeah.
and of course, you remember that I'd already quit work when I was expecting Kevin.
And this one was only 3 months, so you're probably just everything stays home. You're just
Yeah,
taking
that's
what you
right.
need.
It wasn't
it's not
a lot of
move.
moving things. Yeah. But of course, going to the cold country, that was a little bit tricky because I couldn't really let the kids play out that much. We just didn't have the clothing and equipment to, and we
Yeah.
didn't want to buy stuff because what were we going to do with it?
Yeah,
when
and
we
at least
got
it was
back?
spring, right? So
Yeah,
you're probably
it
missing
got-
a month.
It
and
got
then-
much
yeah.
better once we got there.
Yeah.
I mean, once the biggest storm of the century went by.
Oh boy.
So, and we had, I had something here. I did that. Oh, I was saying while we're talking about, we talked about Dan and the cow, but I wanted to mention that Mark, when he was in back to school with Mark after all the traveling and everything, and he's back in school. He's now at an age where he liked to help in the kitchen. He wanted to cook and do things, and I taught him how to make my easy sponge cake. And they had a contest in school, inter-school, not just his school, many schools on the island. Whoever wanted to enter the contest went with their cake or whatever they baked to get judged. And Mark won the prize for his sponge cake. So we were so proud of him going in and winning with his sponge cake. So, and he liked cooking ever since.
There you go.
Yeah. So, and I had...
So we learned a lot about Mark in his early years because, he went outside, didn't complain about the cold. 40 years later, he's camping in the winter with scouts.
That's right.
Dad teaches him to punch some kid in the nose, and now he's a Taekwondo instructor.
Yeah.
singing to the girls out the window,
Out
and then
the
he was
window.
in the jam drama and doing shows and stuff like that,
And still
singing.
singing in the choir.
And now he's cooking and entertaining every chance they get at their place. So
Yeah.
there you go. All Mark needed to learn was the first 4 years of his life. Set him up.
One lesson I think Mark learned. He kept saying, when we moved to Clay Estates, I used to take the bus to school. And he said, I can walk to school. I don't need to take the bus. Well, it was a 30-minute drive if you took your time going from our house to Hamilton. And he just kept at it. He kept bugging me. I can walk to school. I don't know why you don't let me walk to school. So one weekend we left the others with Granny, and Dad and I decided we're going to walk him to Hamilton and teach him just exactly how far it is. Well, Dad wasn't that crazy about doing it, but I was. I wanted to walk, and I knew I could do it, but he wasn't happy about doing it. And we started Mark walking. He was happy as can be. I can't tell you how many people stopped because we knew so many people on that island. Stopped and wanted to give us a ride. Is your car broken down? They didn't know we're okay. We're just taking a walk to Hamilton. They'd look at us like we lost our marbles. Well, that little bugger, he walked all the way to Hamilton. But when we suggested that he might want to take the bus back home, he was all for it.
That'd be scary too, like those roads.
Oh, yeah. Well, in those days wasn't nearly as crowded as they are now that you know the experience. No, but still it was. It was, bad to be walking along. There's no sidewalks, as you know. It was not meant for walking. But, when we got in the bus to go home, he fell asleep within 10 seconds, just clunked his head over.
That's another thing he does now.
Yeah.
When we went to Bermuda before Uncle Tony's funeral, we're sitting on the plane. We haven't even taxied yet, and he's asleep. I don't know how he does it. Yeah.
No,
there was another Danny story I wanted to, we teased everybody with was
the girl.
Yeah,
I forgot.
so where was that? That was in Bermuda, right?
That was in Bermuda, but we were still living in the house where Mark used to sneak off and go to the neighbor's child, and it was our second house, and the neighbor's Funkies, who became Jimmy's godparents, they had two little girls, and the older one, Lynn, was a year older than Danny. So as little girls will be, she wanted him to be her baby.
Oh.
And she was always on his tracks and telling him things to do. And he'd say to her, "Leave me alone, you stupid girl." Because at the time he couldn't say his G's, so it was D, and it was a titty tat, and it was doing up the hill, and we had a secret language. So when he was talking to me with all his things mixed up, I knew what he was saying, but people would squint at me, what, But yeah, he was "Leave me alone, you stupid girl." And one day he was really fed up, and he came over to me and grabbed me by the hand. "Mom, that stupid girl won't leave me alone." And I remember telling that one at his wedding.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because that's exactly how Michael Joseph taught.
That's right, when he had that
two things.
Yeah.
Because I remember one of my favorite stories with him was standing at the door with him, and he kept going, "Doggy."
Yeah.
There's a doggy out there. I know.
Doggy.
And I said, "G, doggy." He goes, "T, puppy." He didn't want to say it. He knew he couldn't say it.
Just wouldn't come out.
Smart for his own good.
And Mark too was in the yard. Some dog was barking its full head off, and he was mad. He said, "Oh, dog, shut up!" He yelled. So I said to him, "Mark, it's not very nice to say shut up." "Oh," he says, "Well, dog, be quiet, please." He knew he had to be better.
My goodness.
And then there was the time when they told him that we were still in that same house when they told him. Must have been right at the end of either kindergarten or grade 1. And they said there was no such thing as Santa Claus. Mm-hmm. And he came home and told me that. Those kids said there's no Santa Claus. I said, "Oh, Mark, it's this way. If you believe in Santa Claus, he comes to you. If you don't believe in Santa Claus, well, that's that. No big deal." Well, he ran outside as fast as he could, put his arms up to the sky. "I believe! I believe!" So there was no doubt about him believing in Santa Claus.
So cute.
So
So cute. But
anyway,
what happened at the beach then?
well, the beach thing was what we used to do from time to time on the weekend. We wanted to go spend the day at the beach. But Dad liked his sailboat. And you guys liked his little punt that he made to paddle around in. So Shelley Bay, which was close to us. But we had the car with the back down and the rowboat inside the car. And 6 little boys, not 6, 5, because you were in my lap. The other 5 were in the rowboat. And the sailboat was on top of the car. And Granny sat between me and Dad in the front, and me with you on my lap.
Oh my gosh.
And this was our entourage going down to the beach to spend the day.
Oh my
and we
goodness.
turned some heads.
I bet.
Because we had to go very slowly.
Uh-huh.
Because with the back of the car open and 6 kids or 5 kids inside the boat.
What?
We could,
Yeah.
You know what? We probably did have 6 kids in the boat because my brother Michael was
Would have been with
probably
you.
with us. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So all shoved inside this little rowboat inside the car.
All held in with a bunch of Dad's nuts.
Yeah.
Tied in. That's crazy. Because
Yeah.
I mean, we laughed like when we were in Mexico, and you see whole families on a motorcycle with
Yeah,
groceries
yeah.
and stuff. Like the baby's on the lap, the
Yeah.
one's holding on to mom, who's holding on to dad, and then groceries are piled on something, and
Yeah.
it's just crazy. But you guys were doing it
Yep.
in Bermuda.
You know, they say necessity is the mother of invention.
That's nuts.
So yeah, that I think I wish I had been a spectator
To see
looking
that.
at that. It's too bad we never had a movie or anything
They
of
never got pulled over or.
Oh no, we were right
Going
up.
slow.
Yeah, we were going slow, and we were at the end of. It wasn't too far from our house.
Yeah, I guess where that road comes out, it's like it's not very far to Shelley
No.
Bay from there, right?
No.
Yeah, so, wow,
So
how
anyway,
crazy!
Yeah.
That was so much fun.
So, yeah.
I guess next week we'll pick it up. Like, I mean, there's probably still tons of stories before
Yeah,
I
there
even come
is.
along, which is perfectly fine. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think, there's stuff from Kevin and Jimmy, and now I don't know if it's true, like the photos go probably just because we ran out of money. Six kids. So it's like the photos, lots of photos of Mark.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
it gets less and less until you
Hardly
get to the end.
any of Kevin, I
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
So I don't know if the stories are the same because now all of a sudden you're busy and you don't see as
well,
much.
yeah,
but,
yeah, that's true.
But
That's true.
but yeah, it'll be fun to hear some stories of
Other
the
adventures.
others that come along and
Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't
we'll just
even
keep
tell
chugging.
you about dropping Jimmy on his head.
Yeah, you did.
I
That was
did?
last time when Mark
No,
said
that's
she's not
when-
arrested.
No, that's when he fell off the chair
Oh.
and put his teeth into the lip.
Oh, okay.
But
Well, we'll
this
have to
was-
save that for next time.
Oh,
then.
okay.
Yeah.
Then we'll see.
'Cause I knew I knew you dropped him on his head, but I thought that was the
That
story.
wasn't it.
Okay. Well, we'll find out how that happened next time.
That's how we made him a genius.
All right. Well, until next time, I guess.
Don't drop your children on their head.
It's not a good way to make them smart.
No.
Although
Okay.
Jesse got smushed too, so maybe there's
yeah.
something to be said about all this.
Okay.
Well.
Tom Engelstischkiza.
Okay, bye. See ya.
Thank you.
Oh my.
I know sometimes Dad and I are sitting out there and I will hear his stomach. And I say, oh my goodness, that's awful. He says, was that you? Oh, I know when it's me.
Okay, well, thanks again for joining us on today's show. Okay. See you next time.